Hello, Laura back again, this time with an L6M1 Learning Objective 3 question, and this is based on a case scenario. So, discuss the sources of power that Sean may use to overcome any challenges that he may face from departmental managers and suggest influencing approaches that he could use to positively influence Celia towards his new proposals. So we've got a couple of things it's asking us to do, discuss the source of power that Sean may use and the influencing approaches that he could use with Celia. So bear that in mind as we read the case scenario. EMF Electronics was reviewing a proposal to relocate production operations from Southern Europe to South America. This proposal was sure to meet with some resistance, but the continuing demand for EMF products in North America was a significant opportunity for the organization. Production costs are currently favorable in South America, whilst the proposed relocation there would still give good market access to North America. The supply chain director of EMF, Sean Park, considered that the savings were critical to the company and that distribution could still operate throughout Europe with a price advantage, even including the additional transportation costs back to Europe. The project would fundamentally reconfigure the operations of the supply chain and have a significant impact upon many employees of the organization. So we've got a massive change here, guys. Sean knew that maintaining the engagement of key stakeholders was crucial for the relocation project to succeed. Therefore, he realized that creating a communication plan for the implementation of the relocation project would be crucial. Sean gathered the EMF departmental managers together for a presentation on the proposal. In building high-performing supply chain operations for EMF in the past, he had been meticulous in planning and coordinating process and project management activities. In this presentation, he knew that he needed to inspire and motivate the departmental management team. He acknowledged that there would be resistance to such a large-scale change, but felt confident that strong leadership would be able to overcome this. So Sean has obviously done a good job in the past, but this is a huge change, and he seems a little naive to me. After the presentation, Sean invited questions and was quickly overwhelmed by the negativity, the issues raised, the challenges made to his proposal, and requests for further information. He was particularly concerned with a series of issues raised by the logistics manager, Celia Groves. Celia had worked with the organization for over 25 years and was very well respected by senior management and fellow employees alike. The points Celia made systematically challenged the arguments for the project proposal. She argued that much more could be done to reduce the cost of the current European production location. Sean noticed that others in the room were nodding in agreement, and Sean had planned to use the same presentation later that week to key suppliers in order to take the project forward. He now considered that a different approach might be required. So it looks like he's gone straight into moving to South America before looking at the options of what they could do in Europe. Upon returning to his office, Sean reflected upon the presentation to the departmental managers. He knew that carrying through a large and complex project such as this, with fundamental change requirements, was going to be very challenging. Although he still felt convinced that this was the right thing to do, he realized that he would have to assemble a strong project team to support him. He also recognized that his approach to managing the change might have to adapt depending upon the stage of the project and the barriers encountered. He glanced out of the window and saw Celia and some of the other departmental managers deep in discussion outside. Their discussions looked serious, and Sean was concerned about a negative group influencing the broader team. Sean decided to call his old mentor for some advice. A direct line to the chair of the board was always an advantage. Okay, so let's remind ourselves of the question. Discuss the sources of power that Sean may use to overcome any challenges that he may face from departmental managers, and suggest influencing approaches that he could use to positively influence Celia towards his new proposals. So there's really two definitions here for me, power and influencing. We'll start with power and then we'll go to influencing later. Power is the ability to exert influence over others. So a nice snappy little one. So we're going to start by looking at sources of power that Sean has. And I'm using the French and Raven model here. So you might want to tell the examiner that if you are doing this. Let's talk about legitimate or positional power. Sean is a senior manager within the organization and therefore commands a degree of respect based on his job role. So Sean has legitimate power. I don't know if they're necessarily respecting that legitimate power, but he definitely has it. Expert power. Sean should demonstrate expertise in terms of procurement, change management, and project management. And in this context, he can demonstrate this form of power. So he's clearly meticulous, he's clearly experienced, it mentions it in the case, and he's engaged in project management before. So he does have some expertise here, but again, maybe the team aren't recognizing that, the departmental managers. And then there's reward power. Sean has the ability to award or withhold contracts with suppliers, thus demonstrating his power in this context. So he has reward power over suppliers. He doesn't necessarily have reward power over the departmental managers. And maybe there's something that he can offer there that will get them more on board. The final two of French and Raven's 5 powers, referent. This is the power that Sean will have by virtue of his inspiring personality, image, or charisma. So referent power is the power of personality or charm, people who make you want to do that. There's no evidence of this in the case today. However, it does suggest that inspirational leadership will be required. And maybe Celia is more inspirational to them at the moment because Sean didn't seem to win them over. So he needs to use more of that inspirational appeal approach. And then finally, coercive or physical power. Again, this is where you are essentially giving threats or saying, forcing things through. There's no evidence in the case of any physical threats, but Sean may have the power of sanctions over departmental managers, saying, this is what's going to happen, you're going to have to get on board. It's not a great long-term approach, but short-term, it does get people on board. So we've discussed sources of power. Now we need to talk about the influencing approaches he could use with Celia. Influence is to cause someone to change a behavior, belief, or opinion. And Sean has a difficult job here to get Celia on side because she's clearly not on board with the move to South America. So I'm going to use a few suggestions from the Uccle and Falby model. Rational persuasion would be an influencing approach to use, using logic, facts, and figures to make the argument. Sean can try to persuade Celia of the potential profits and cost savings of his proposal, even with potentially looking at her suggestions for what to do in the European area and the difference in the profit or cost side of that, so he can weigh them up side by side. As mentioned, he needs to use an inspirational appeal, applying to the beliefs and values of an individual to show them this desired future state where they want to get to. And Sean may, through force of his personality, although we haven't seen much of it, and inspiration, persuade Celia of the benefits of the new approach. Maybe he could kind of sell the idea of life in South America and a different kind of way of life at the same time as saving all this money and so on. Other influencing approaches that Sean may potentially use are as follows. I've just thrown a few here. Each one should be in its own paragraph that you're explaining though. Sean may involve Celia in the development of proposals, so she could consult with her. It becomes much more difficult to criticize something we're involved in. Ingratiation. Sean might try to get Celia to like him and regard him in a positive frame of mind, so she's more likely to say yes to what he puts forward. That's probably quite a weak one though, because she seems quite set against this. Exchange. There may be some issue that Sean can use to negotiate with Celia. So, for example, mutual support for one of Celia's projects in return for support for his proposals and so on. Personal appeal may attempt to develop personal friendship with Celia to ensure her loyalty. Again, maybe too late for that. Coalition. In this approach, Sean would form an alliance with Celia to work together on the project and to convince other stakeholders. Now, this is what he should have done from the start, really. It seems like she's already steadfast against it, so it might be too late to do this, but it could be an approach. And legitimating. This is where Sean justifies to all concerned that this is what needs to be done because he is the manager of this and he is experienced enough to know this. So he's making that legitimate request. So they're just a few approaches. You can pick 2 or 3. You could talk about all of them and so on, as long as you have enough time. So I hope you found this useful. I love a question like that. Make sure you're addressing both the sources of power and influencing, and you should pick up decent marks. Thanks so much for listening. Catch you back for another constructive response exam question soon. Bye for now.